The Mariners just finished up their homestand versus the Atlanta Braves, going 6-3 on this homestand. Joe and I are going to break down everything that happened in this series, the good and the bad. And then we're going to talk about some of the guys that are injured for the Mariners and when we could be seeing them coming back. We're going to wrap it all up by talking about the Houston Astros series coming up as the Mariners fly down to Minute Maid Park. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 83 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network. I am here with Joe. Joe, it's the Mike E episode, dude.
Dude, shout out my guy Mike E. Feeling better that it's the Mike E episode, personally. It was not a very fun final game to watch. The Mariners had their moments in Wednesday's finale against the Braves, but it was not a clean game necessarily played. Maybe I would say by the Mariners in general, but there's one guy that might need to get singled out, and it hurts to say. But we'll get there. We can't go too far ahead because we obviously, we got to start back in game one. And first of all, game one was an absolute instant classic, I would say, to start the year. It was probably the best game just in general from like an outsider's perspective that involved the Mariners to start the year. Like pitching duels going crazy, like the odds of both pitchers probably taking no-hitters, even a perfect game, keeping that in mind so late into a game, like slim to none. You will not find odds given on that scenario on BetOnline, but you can find plenty of other things to bet on BetOnline. Thank you to BetOnline for being the sponsor for the Hit It Here podcast. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, so if you wanted to place a bet on, say, the NBA playoffs, place to do it is with BetOnline, and if you head there today, you will get a 50% off your welcome bonus on your first deposit by using promo code Bleav. That is BLEAV. Like I said, the NBA playoffs, an exciting thing, an exciting time. BetOnline has you covered with up-to-the-date news, odds, stats, trends, lines, whatever you can think of related to betting analysis. BetOnline has you covered, and they've also got you covered for desktop and mobile access. So if you need some help figuring out what prop you want to bet on or which team to take in the playoffs, BetOnline, they can likely assist you in that regard. And say you're not super interested in betting on the NBA, well, MLB is in full swing, regular season, games every single day. So there's nothing lacking in terms of betting and on BetOnline. Because frankly, guys, the game starts on BetOnline. So some of you might know, Colton, you got to experience that first game in person, IRL. Let us know exactly how that instant classic of a game went. It was a 2-1 win, but what made it so great?
I mean, it was almost instantly bad once Bryce Miller gave up a run, and it was overall, again, an incredible performance by Bryce Miller against probably one of the best offenses in all of baseball. I was very, very shocked at how well he pitched against this lineup. Watching dueling no-hitters. Obviously, Bryce Miller had the perfect game, I think, through 6 or something like that. But watching all of it unfold in front of my eyes, it was cold as hell. It was rainy as hell. But you know what? The pitchings was hot. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to, I think it was the 8th inning, and the Mariners didn't give Bryce Miller any run support. I remember texting you angrily.
This team is like something about like this team is dog poop or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how incompetent they are.
That happens when Max Fried, the Braves were throwing a combined no-hitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a situation where Fried's pitch count was already in the 90s. He struck out 7 over 6 innings, walked 2, but he had to come out, and Pierce Johnson comes in, strikes out the side in his 1 inning of work. So the Braves were carrying the no-hitter into the 8th inning. Josh Rojas, my guy, the savior of this ball club, started a fake rally in the 8th. But Colton, the real magic happened in the 9th.
Yeah, I had gone down to go pee, right? Let me give you some lore. Okay. Then I went and stood behind the J-Rod squad for the bottom of the 9th inning. Jorge Polanco comes up versus, who was on the mound? It was AJ Minter.
Yes.
And right-handed Polanco gets a base knock. And I'm thinking, okay, Mariners are down by 1. Mitch Garver's coming up. It's possible because Mitch Garver just has such massive power. And then all of a sudden, he finds his way into this 3-2 count just with some shenanigans.
Exactly.
And I'm like, please just get on base for the love of God. Like, I don't care what you do, just get on base. And then he makes contact, and I knew off the bat. I just started clapping. I'm like, yeah,
let's go.
There was a guy next to me who was doing the same thing. He was there alone as well. He was sitting there on his phone watching the pitch tracker, just like I was. And then
why? Just to make sure there wasn't any like bad calls made?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Mm-hmm, yeah, because you can't tell from where we're at. So I'm just, and then I'm clapping, but he waited. He waited to make sure, and I don't blame the guy. So, sir, if you're watching this, I don't blame you one bit for not believing that was real life. But yeah, I mean, just the vibes immediately turned around. It was, I was high-fiving people just that were standing near me, They just walked up to me, we're high-fiving, we're like, yeah, the vibes.
That's the beauty.
We're much better at that point. Mitch Garver coming through after, he's had a rough start to this year. He really has. And I think that hopefully this gets him going. Again, I don't think he did anything in the next game, did he? In game 2? No, 0-for-4 with 2 Ks. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, but we'll just pretend that got him going. But that does bring us to game 2. The Mariners, we said prior to this series, just win one game. Just don't get swept. They won the first game. We were feeling pretty good about it. Jarred Kelenic came back, got an okay ovation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the vibes were good going into game 2, Joe.
And this is one that you kind of labeled as the game that we should or could win when we were doing the previous episode of just like this series preview. Castillo versus Reynaldo Lopez. Castillo he's back. There's no way, shape, or form dude has returned to La Piedra form. Any doubters, any question marks about what he was doing beforehand in this previous couple starts? Yes, they were not pretty. This start was every bit of pretty, I would say, from Castillo. Did amazing work pitching around, like you said, the Braves lineup, which is obviously no lineup to slouch at. Bryce Miller did well. Luis Castillo did well. 7 innings, 3 hits. No earned, 1 walk, 7 Ks. He exited with a lead, a 3-run lead that he handed off to the Mariners bullpen. Josh Rojas had a great day, on base all 4 times, walked 3 times, by the way. The Braves are scared to pitch to Josh Rojas. They'd rather pitch to Julio, who went 0-for-4 with 3 Ks, by the way, in this game. Overall, not like the craziest offensive performance in this game, but they did enough to get the job done. Dylan Moore had a nice RBI double down the line. If he had just dropped the elbow a little bit more next time, he's hitting into Edgar's. But alas, a 3-0 lead inherited to the Mariners bullpen, and that's when things got interesting.
Yeah, a couple of weak base hits, a little blooper into center field, and then Jarred Kelenic breaking his bat and ending up being safe over there at first base. It was rough. It was very rough. And then I believe Stanek walked the next guy or something like that. Bases were juiced at that point. Andres Munoz came in, and to his credit, right, he didn't look great, and Stanek didn't look great, but the Mariners bullpen got the job done. Andres Munoz, that little dinker in front of home plate, he throws it into right field. Yeah, not a huge fan personally.
Yeah, not the greatest of plays.
We want to talk about the tweet.
Your tweet?
I said, "WTF are you doing, Andres Munoz?"
Yeah, and then. Of course,
then after the game,
and then he's getting a 5-out save, you idiot. Yeah, no, I mean that was just the immediate, impression farm. But I would say Stanek, I don't know what's going on the last couple outings. Bro just does not have the command needed to pitch in the situations like that. And I don't know if maybe next time he goes out there, we see him in hopefully a less leverage role to maybe reacclimate to throwing strikes. We'll probably see him against Houston coming up. The redemption, the revenge bullpen appearance out of Ryan Stanek. But Munoz comes in, gets his first 5-out save of his career. I would say he looked better in the 9th than he did in the 8th. And he didn't look terrible in the 8th. It's the big glaring thing was just the feeble attempt to try and make a play on the grounder, which in his defense, one, that's probably a ball you just have to eat, and you can't really always make that decision 100% of the time in that scenario, because you know what you're walking into. You're walking into a shit show. Like, keeping it just straight up. Like, he was not in a good situation. He managed to pitch around it, though. 5 outs, struck out 3 batters, struck out Kelenic to end the game, which I'm sure there's a lot of people that were very, like, poetic about that ending. But the Mariners came out on top, looking for a series sweep going to the series finale on Wednesday. Chris Sale versus Emerson Hancock. But Colton, game 2 was a game that it felt like the Mariners were it was very much so in their hands the entire time. And they almost gave it away, held on to it. I think in 2022, that's a game that they lose. In my opinion, it feels like a game that they probably would have lost in 2023. And that's probably just me trying to put stock into something that doesn't exist. Like, they would have won that game in 2021 and 2022 when the vibes are better, when the team actually, like, cared. 2023, they didn't care, man. But 2024, they do, bro. Like, maybe that's where that stems from. But they won that game, and that's huge. That keeps them in first place, keeps them rolling, winning series 5 in a row, looking for a sweep. The day game on Wednesday. Did it start earlier, by the way?
12:40.
I was looking at. I clocked in to watch the game at 1:10, and I'm like, we're in the 3rd inning. I was like, there's runners on 2nd and 3rd, and Hancock's in the 3rd inning. What do you mean? So I missed the entire first 3 innings because I just assumed it was a 1 o'clock game. But no, 12:40 for the final game there.
Well, I can fill you in. But first, those first 2 games, those games, like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't care that the Mariners lost the 3rd game. It doesn't bother me one bit. They won the series against probably the best team in baseball, so I don't care. Like, I had 0 expectations going into this series. The Mariners blew them out of the water. The first 2 games would have been frustrating to lose because, like you said, they felt like they were in the Mariners' grasp the whole time. Like, both games were very winnable for the Mariners. I mean, frankly, this whole series, the Braves did not play up to their potential. They didn't. Even in game 3, they didn't. But game 1, the Mariners just needed to have some timely hitting, which is always the case with this godforsaken baseball team. Game 2, they had it, especially, like, if that ball would have gotten out from Dylan Moore, could you imagine how much smoother this would have gone?
Yeah.
That game? Oh, it would have felt a million times better. Yeah. But coming into game 3, Emerson Hancock with Chris Sale on the mound. I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall. This is a guy who was a perennial Cy Young Award contender.
Yeah.
Versus Emerson Hancock, who, in my opinion, game 3 is not on him. And we could talk about that here in a second. The first inning was a little bit rough. I believe he had the bases loaded, and he was able to strike out the side, including a nasty pitch that struck, I believe it was Marcell Ozuna to end that inning.
Good.
Yeah, I know, I agree. Maybe hit him next time, but just don't let him. But because it's Marcell Ozuna, just don't let the runner come in.
Yeah.
So he looked good. Like, he was able to dig himself out of that jam. Second inning, he got through it quick. It was like a 1-2-3 inning, very quick inning. Third inning, was that the inning that he got into trouble, or was it the next inning, wasn't it?
Third inning was a bit of trouble. He walked Ozuna to bring in a run, and then that was the only run I think that was allowed in that inning. And then the next inning is where it blew open because Mitch Haniger is not necessarily the most adept fielding outfielder. Good product placement for us. He ran straight into the hit it here sign. which is kind of funny, but not at the same time. It wasn't great. Actually, I don't even know if that's the right play. Austin Riley triples. No, that is in the 4th, right?
The one that would have ended the inning was when he was trying to catch the ball and it hit off the heel of his glove.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking about the one after.
The inning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mitch running in, 2 outs, no runs had been allowed at that point. Mitch was running in, ball hits off the heel of his glove, and it trickles away. And I think it was Albies. It doesn't matter. Somebody got to second base on that play, and then in the inning continued. I think there was a base hit after that scored the runner from second, and then it just kind of all went to poo-poo because then guys were, like the Mitch Haniger playing right field after that. So, yeah, only 1 earned run on Hancock today. He, over the last 19 games, because there was only 1 earned run, the Mariners have only given up 19 earned runs over the last 19 games.
Pretty good. That'll play.
Yeah, typically. That'll play. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I don't blame Hancock for this start. I mean, he didn't pitch great. He didn't pitch like he had been, But at the same time, this is completely on Mitch Haniger, 100%. And after Hancock came out of that game, the bullpen threw like 5 2/3 or 5 1/3 of scoreless ball against a Braves team that probably should have run away with that game.
Mm-hmm.
The Mariners were able to score 2 runs in this game. Eventually, both RBIs coming from Jorge Polanco, mind you. We saw some good defense from both Sam Haggerty and Dylan Moore. The Braves were helped out a little bit by Mr. Umpire Man, who was
a joke.
That might have been the worst umpiring I've seen all year.
Nick Lentz.
More like Nick Loser.
Yeah, the L stands for loser in his name. Yeah, he was just giving Sale the outside curveball or slider to right-handed batters the entire game. And I will give credit here to Chadwick Tromp. Okay, I'm pretty sure he was behind it. Bro was receiving that slider on the outside corner beautifully every time, enticing the umpire to be like, "Oh yeah, strike!" Like, let me call that a strike every single time. Bro was snagging that ball, and like the way his glove would like kind of like fall back into the zone, it looked seamless. Like the ball had been there the entire time. I'm not gonna say that, Sale deserved those calls, because he didn't. The umpire should be like, "Oh wait, that is outside." And do you think Scott should have just gone out there and started yelling his little head off?
I mean, yes, but I also don't know what good it would have done.
Sure. Like would that have turned around the game? I'm not sold on it. I think it's more so like the idea of like trying to fire up the guys, maybe to try and like show that he's got their back. Maybe. I know. I just saw people tweet. I'm pretty sure it was Jake. Jake was just shouting from the rooftops like, "Scott!" like just like begging him. So I don't know. The ump show definitely came out to play in the final game. A game lost 5-2. There was moments later, like Ty France had a chance. He was the tying run, I think, in the 7th or 8th inning. Had runners on first and second.
Yeah, sounds right.
Struck out, unfortunately. So, like, the Mariners had their chances. I mean, 10 hits across today. Only 2 runs scored. They struck out 12 times, though, is the problem. We mentioned Haniger's defense. Didn't do any favors at the plate either. 0 for 5, 3 Ks. I understand why he's probably batting 2 with this lineup against a left-handed pitcher. 1, he might need a day off. 2, he's starting to slow down a little bit, so move him down. Take a little bit of the weight off his shoulders for him. Help him out. So I think it's just an overall tough game from Haniger, but you mentioned Polanco at the top, driving in the 2 runs. Hopefully he can kind of continue that hot stretch. Garver obviously got the day off today, which I think was necessary, because both Mitches have just been grinding into the dirt, I think, the last 9 games, roughly. They've been put to the test.
Talking about the guys who did well in this game, Julio was 3 for 5. Polanco 2 for 5. Ty France 2 for 4. Demo with a hit in this one, and Sebi Zavala was 2 for 3 in this game. Sebi Zavala almost hit a dinger, dude.
I know.
I thought it was out. I thought it was Adam Duvall.
Poor guy.
But yeah, I thought that one was out. So overall, no problems with this series. None at all. Mariners won the series against one of the best teams in baseball. They lost the last game. Cool. Don't care. Like, I'll probably regret that at the end of the year. Someone will be like, "Oh, Colton, you didn't care about that one loss. The Mariners missed the playoffs that one game." Blah, blah, blah. I'll complain about a lot of other games before I complain about this one.
Yeah.
That brings us to talking about a couple of guys that are hurt, because like you said, the way the lineup is currently constructed is in part because JP Crawford is missing. We have heard a little bit about where he's at in his process to come back to the team. Joe, what did we hear over the past couple of days?
I don't know if it's I've heard anything. Marine Layers just posting videos. Shout out to them doing media, like on-field stuff. Just posting JP throwing, taking some grounders, doing some stuff, like extending his throwing to a bit further out. He's feeling better. The grade 1 oblique strain, it seems like it's progressing a lot quicker than a lot of us maybe would have thought. I don't know if the healing process looks, and I didn't even know where the oblique was, 2-3 weeks ago. All right, guys, I'm gonna be completely transparent. If the healing process is like this naturally, then good for JP. He's right on track. If this is not normal and he's progressing quickly, good for the Mariners, because the quicker you can get JP back into your lineup, even if he's not even batting leadoff anymore, if they want to maybe get him back into the swing of things, have him bat in the lower third of the order, We've seen him have good success there in previous years. Why not? Just having him back in lineup will be huge as far as an overall presence in your lineup goes. I know that throwing and fielding is probably not the most strenuous aspect of what an oblique strain will hold you back from. It's definitely going to be the hitting that we're going to have to pay attention to. And hopefully that progresses just as well as it looks like it has for all the cardio looking things aside. I don't know much about cardio, as you can tell, but JP looks like he's doing all right as far as that is concerned. Surprisingly enough, Colton, if you're ready to move on from JP, we haven't talked about Matt Brash a singular time on this channel since he got shut down indefinitely. Other than when I was streaming. That's like the only time I think it was on Sunday stream when I've talked about it. So we'll get your thoughts here quickly. But Matt Brash shut down indefinitely. Haven't heard anything from the visitation yet. Realistically, what will happen, you'll probably hear about it. Like, we will know tomorrow, maybe. That would be my guess. That's just how news kind of works for us. Is we'll talk about something and then it becomes immediately outdated because,
someone says something.
Someone says something. But my immediate thoughts are Brash is shut down indefinitely after working up. This is probably he's done for the year in my head. Like, that's my immediate worst case scenario. Like, I've just accepted it, and if it's anything better than that, I will be a happy camper because it's better. It's a better situation than I would have thought. Are you kind of in that same boat?
Yeah, I think that we just have to assume that Brash is out for the year. And if we do see him, then that is a plus. Like, if we do get Matt Brash back towards the end of the year as like a late in the season, all of a sudden addition, cool. But don't expect it. Do not expect it if you're a Mariners fan right now. Now, with everything we've heard and how much everyone seems like they're worried about it, don't expect Matt Brash back this year. That's kind of the end of the story. Of course, we'll be able to talk more about it when we hear from Hollander or DePoto, but until then, I'm just going to assume he's out for the year. Brian Wu, rumor has it he'll make one more start and then he'll be back, so that's a good update for the Mariners as well. Otherwise, nothing on Dom Canzone that we've heard recently.
Aside from the initial stuff of it's not as bad as we all thought. He'll be back sooner than 6 weeks, more probably 4 to honestly, maybe expect Dom back middle of May. I don't know what the Mariners' schedule looks like beyond Houston off the top of my head, but maybe the next homestand, or maybe the homestand after that. Because there's there's only a very few and far between games off, because we're in Houston, then we go to Minnesota, then we're back home, and then we go on the road in the middle of May in Baltimore. We go to the East Coast, and then we're back in Seattle at the end of May, on May 27th. Happy birthday, Caitlin. So maybe he'll return then. Maybe the end of May was when Dom comes back. Maybe it'll be at the end of a rehab stint or something like that. Could be a timetable there.
Yeah, I think JP, if everything keeps progressing, I'd be shocked, but I guess it wouldn't be all that surprising if he was back at the beginning of the next homestand. If it's going as well as it seems like it's going. Haven't heard if he's swinging the bat or anything yet, but maybe by then. So you mentioned Houston, Joe.
I did.
Our mortal enemies. All right. They're hot right now. They've won the last 3 games. They just had a big walk-off home run from Victor Carantini the other day versus the Guardians. And the Mariners are going in there to Minute Maid Park, a house of horrors for this team. What can we expect in this series, Joe? Starting the first game, which will be Ronel Blanco versus George Kirby.
I really feel like the Mariners flipped the script on Houston in 2023. Aside, specifically against them. We took the season series against them. I felt like we played well in Minute Maid for the large majority of last year. I think it was towards the end of the year was it September or was it August? We went in there, took 2 out of 3, or did we sweep?
Oh, we swept.
We swept, right? So I think our most recent experience in Houston, take from that, compare, last year, the Mariners, they played awful against the Rangers in Globe Life. Maybe the Mariners will not be okay, we done it against Texas. Why can't we do it against the other Texas this year? Just go in there, stick it to them. We know we can. We've got our 3 best pitchers probably for this season so far going against them in this series. Game 1 is George Kirby against Ronel Blanco, who has a no-hitter on the year. Congrats. Cool for him. He's not going to no-hit the Mariners, I can tell you that. It's not going to happen, especially if Josh Rojas is in the lineup. Josh Rojas is the no-hitter killer, baby. All right, put that on a shirt. Don't do that. That's an awful slogan. Don't put that on a shirt, please. It's terrible. But I don't know. I think George Kirby can go in. Bregman's been struggling. Obviously, Kyle Tucker is not human. Jose Altuve. We know what the Astros are going to bring to the table. Not Jose Abreu. He just got optioned, by the way.
Yep.
So he's been terrible. Maybe who would they bring up? I don't even know his name.
Black. I don't know. No,
I feel like it's Joey Loperfido. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I know. Excuse me. Yeah, Joey Loperfido, I think, is who they brought. It was the corresponding move for Jose Abreu. Got an RBI base hit in a clutch moment for them against the Guardians. Guardians, I mean, the Guardians are a great team. If the Astros are playing well against them, Mariners are playing well against the Braves, maybe it'll be just an overall bloodbath in Houston. Like, it'll be a good matchup overall. My expectations for this Houston roster were a lot better than 10-19 coming into the year. So I think it'll be closer than what the records might show. I still have faith that game one, Mariners, George Kirby, who's looked a lot better in his last couple outings, specifically last start, 12 Ks, career high. I think George can go out there and do something similar.
Yeah, I mean, all three stars in this series for the Mariners have been, like, these are the guys. You know, George in the first game, Logan in the second game, and Bryce in the third game. The Mariners are sending basic. I mean, it's kind of hard to look at any part of this rotation and say they're not putting their best foot forward and sending out their best unit, because there's really no weak link right now, unless you want to consider Emerson Hancock, who's been fine, the weak link. I agree. Going into this series, it'll be closer than the records show. The Mariners are 17-14. The Astros are 10-19. I think that the Astros probably they just had a rough start to the season, and now they're trying to crawl their way out of it. What I don't want to happen is all the Astros fans, and they'll be like, oh, nobody believed in us at the start of the year, and look at us now. Shut up. All right? Listen, Anthony, okay? If you're back again, cry. Little girl.
Little tears. They do have
Your
game.
Tears taste delicious.
They have a game today. It's a 5:00 game, though. So they could be 11-19 or 10-20 by the time you guys are hearing this. I don't know. You're lagging. You don't have time to pull these shenanigans.
No, I couldn't understand a word you were saying. You sound like a robot.
Oh, am I laggy right now?
I don't know. One of us was. Guess we'll see, huh? So game 2 of this.
I wouldn't start yet. You are so laggy. Uh-oh. So looking ahead to game 2 here for the Mariners and Astros series, it's just me. I am solo. Not Colton will definitely not be making an appearance. I do not have enough time to orchestrate that. So if anybody was looking forward to maybe seeing not Colton, he will not be here for this iteration of a solo podcast. Colton's internet did just go kaput, but Logan Gilbert will be on the mound in game 2. Obviously, on the year, he has been our best pitcher. By and large, bro has been ice cold on the mound. 2-0, a 2.03 ERA, 44 strikeouts. Logan Walter Gilbert, if you will. I think he's got a good chance, just the same as George Kirby, to go in to Minute Maid Park, go into Houston, shut down the Astros lineup, who the Astros lineup's actually been pretty good so far in this year. It's mainly been their bullpen and their starting pitching, which has been hurt, and their bullpen just like giving up runs. Like, offensively, the Astros have been all right. Their pitching has been where they've struggled the most. In this game, opposite Logan Gilbert, rumored, theorized, probable, Framber Valdez making his return after not pitching for a bit here. We know what Framber Valdez is capable of. Last time, got into a little kerfuffle with Jose Caballero, which is always a fun time. Anytime Cabby was trying to get into stuff. But Framber Valdez is no slouch on the mound. He's a lefty, so we'll see the Dylan Moore, Sam Haggerty, Mitch Haniger maybe batting 2 lineup, more than likely, in that second game on Saturday. I give the pitching matchup edge to Logan Gilbert. The issue I think I might take in this is the Mariners offense, although they did put together 10 hits in the series finale against the Braves, it took timely hitting in the Atlanta series, and also I'd say in the Diamondbacks series as well, to really take those wins. And yes, they won those series. They won those games. A win is a win. But not being able to consistently get productive at-bats from a couple of your key guys could spell disaster for you against an Astros lineup that is pretty potent at the end of the day. Not to say that I think Gilbert can't shut them down. I'm just worried that maybe the Mariners won't be able to get to Framber Valdez in Game 2 compared to who they're facing in Game 1 and going into Game 3, which will be Bryce Miller versus maybe Christian Javier. It is a to-be-announced situation. Hunter Brown, I think it is technically his spot in the rotation, but he has struggled mightily this year. So if it's Bryce Miller versus Hunter Brown, a matchup of some sophomore season guys looking to make big impacts for their ball club, Hunter Brown not doing so in 2024, Bryce Miller very much doing so. We saw him shut down the Braves, as Colton mentioned, in the first game of that series. No-hitter, just everything that you could have asked for out of Bryce Miller. He gave it his all on the mound against a very strong Braves lineup. Astros lineup, I have good faith that Bryce Miller will continue to be able to pitch well to the big scaries in those lineups. Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, everybody else, like if Yanyer Diaz, Victor Carantini is for some reason in there, hit the big walk-off hit for them as an offseason acquisition for the Astros. But what the Mariners' recipe for success here in the final game, if it's Christian Javier, if it's Hunter Brown, or I guess any of the games here, is something that they've done relatively well, excluding games 1 and 3 against the Braves, which was get to starting pitchers early. Get them out, work their pitch count, like in the series sweep against the Reds way back when, which feels, super long ago at this point, given all the series wins that the Mariners have accumulated since then, got Frankie Montas and Hunter Green out pretty early. They've been able to work counts a bit better, and against Reynaldo Lopez, a guy that's been dominant all year, they put 3 up on the board, got to him pretty quickly, and didn't allow him to establish dominance over the zone. Max Fried did that with his rainbow curveball. Chris Sale did that with his outside edge of the box slider that he was just getting a good call on the entire game in the series finale against the Braves. Against the Astros, you just can't let them establish anything. And hopefully the Mariners offense is able to scratch and claw, put some runs on the board, get the timely home run, which when they need it, because that's how the offense goes more often than not, is a timely home run will be enough, or has been enough, to propel this team to victory the large majority of this great stretch of games after starting 6-10. Mariners are 17-14, so they're 11-4 over those last 15. Great stuff out of the Seattle Mariners. Last little bit, it was a tough stretch of games. Didn't know how they were feeling. Going 6-3 against the Diamondbacks, the Rangers, and the Braves, you take that every single day of the week. But with that all being said, we appreciate you guys watching episode 83 of the Hit It Here podcast, presented by BetOnline. I want you guys to go check out this prospect video that Colton made a couple days ago. It's a banger. As Colton does, he makes bangers. And thank you guys for watching the Ty Dane Gonzalez Happy Birthday Ty episode of the Hit It Here podcast, and go Mariners.